Hey, Moss here, out of New York, enjoying the end of a lovely day in early March. It's been 50 some odd degrees, sunny. I'm so excited to be in a hoodie and a t-shirt as opposed to like a scarf and like two jackets like I was yesterday. Just taking in this beautiful weather. And I figured I'd bring the camera out and record some content that can add value. And so I hope it does. So taking this walk out here, I've been thinking about what could be valuable to people, what could be useful, what's been a big thing for me at least, and for other people who I've gotten to know. So one of the things that I've really come to appreciate more and more, not just here, but really viscerally as of late, is that being triggered is actually a gift. And that might sound crazy, like, what do you mean being triggered is a gift? Like, what is this nonsense? Which is also an understandable response. So when we're triggered, stuff's coming up, and it's kind of like, I think of it like projectile vomit. Like suddenly you find yourself like, ah! And, oftentimes, especially the way that society has gone, we've been taught to think of that experience as something happening because someone did something to us. And maybe somebody did. I don't know. Every situation is unique. However, I think there's a greater underlying phenomena. So even if someone did something that was super uncool or worse, or maybe someone didn't, either way, when we're being triggered, something is happening. What's happening? Well, here's my hypothesis, and I think it's true. When we're being triggered, our body is attempting to release something that's no longer serving us. Think about like being in college and going out and having too much to drink, or going to a buffet and having too much to eat. And you get to that point and you're like, oh, this is coming up. And you might even try to fight it. You don't want it. Oh my God, it's going to be so uncomfortable. But, better out than in, right? And at some point it just, blah, it happens. I think basically being triggered is that, but we've been taught to frame it in all these different ways. You're doing something wrong because you were triggered. They did something wrong and so you were triggered. And this whole big thing versus, hold on a second, like my system is purging something that's not helpful. Better out than in. If I could have alcohol poisoning, have to go to the hospital, have my stomach pumped, or just be sick for like a couple of days or whatever, or blah, hydrate, be a little off in the morning and be okay by the middle of the next day, I would take the latter personally, right? Doesn't mean that process is fun. It's often very uncomfortable, but I think that's what's happening. And so when we shift from this disempowered mindset, and maybe it's a victim mindset, maybe it's just feeling outside of our power, which I think that there's thresholds. When we shift into this space of, I'm the protagonist in my life. This is not happening to me. This is happening for me. So if this is happening for me, what's the purpose? What's being served by this process? Say, oh, my body's releasing something. It's ready to let go. And you realize, hold on a second. I could spend months or years in therapy digging this stuff up. Oh God, I don't want to look there. Or life threw me a bone and went, blah, and now you're looking at it anyway. And then you could say, okay, I could sit there and examine it and have feelings about it and judge it and all these things, which I recommend you avoid doing that. Avoid judging it, avoid examining it that much, avoid analyzing it for sure. Just let it pass, hold space, let it vent out. Like allow it to leave your system. And notice how much better you feel. Notice how the next time something similar comes up, it's less intense. Because each time that we do that, each time that you just hold space, avoid judging what's coming up, allow it to move and pass. I like to think of it like laying in the grass, staring at the clouds. See all this grass behind me? Imagine you're just laying in the grass. It's like a lovely sunny day with fluffy clouds passing above you. And you're just staring at the clouds, seeing the shapes. That looks like a boat. That looks like a car. That looks like a dog. That looks like Uncle Johnny, whatever, right? You're not really giving that much thought to those clouds most of the time. Approach it like that as the things come up, the feelings, the thoughts, the memories, whatever. Just the surges of energy. Oh, it reminded me of that. Or just let it pass in general. Just hold space for it. Avoid much interaction with it. And notice how it leaves. And notice how after a little bit, you start to feel better. Again, kind of like when you have to puke and you let it up and then it's sort of rough while it happens and you're like, okay, I feel better. So again, I've come to find that being triggered is a gift. And when we own that mindset of, I'm the protagonist, I'm the hero in my story, because as soon as you decide that you are the hero in your story, it is true for you. When we just own that and maintain that mindset, and if it were to slip, we come right back to it, no big deal. Just come right back to it, no big deal. Just come right back to it, no big deal. It becomes habituated. And each time that something happens, we become less triggerable, less intensely triggerable. We start to learn and gain wisdom and have a different quality of life. And so now, instead of having to dig up the crap to get it out, to excavate it, which is half of what traditional therapy is about, we say, oh, life's just helping me out in this process, saving me hundreds of dollars and dozens of hours. And instead I can just allow that to happen, have it come up. And even if there was someone who was a jerk who did something that was triggering, great. Whether they meant to help or not, they actually helped me out. So, worst comes to worst, both screw you and thank you. That's okay. Fine, whatever. Then move on with your life. Enjoy being alive. Enjoy the additional energy that comes when things get purged. Because once you get through that process, you get your energy back. You have more spaciousness, and life just becomes that much richer. So I hope that was helpful, and I'll see you next time.